If you're new to CNC or you're thinking about buying one, this video can save you thousands of dollars, broken bits, and a whole lot of frustration. I've been using CNC machines for over 15 years, and I've taught thousands of CNC owners how to design and cut better projects. And here's the truth, most CNC problems aren't random. They come from a handful of really common mistakes that almost every beginner makes. Some of these mistakes happen after you own a CNC, and some of the biggest ones happen before you even turn the machine on. Let's start with mistake number one, and this one can cost you the most money by far. Buying the wrong CNC machine is one of the most common and expensive mistakes beginners make. A lot of people buy a CNC based on price, hype, or what someone else recommended, without really thinking about how they plan to use it. Then a few months later, they realize the machine is too small, not rigid enough, or can't handle the type of projects they actually want to make. I see this all the time. The machine is great for signs, but not furniture parts. It struggles with hardwoods. The cutting area is smaller than expected, or they just outgrow it way faster than they planned. The problem usually isn't the CNC itself, it's the machine that doesn't match the user's goal. One of the reasons this happens is because it's really hard to compare CNC machines in one place and understand what they're actually good for. That's exactly why I built the free CNC Hub website, so you can research and compare CNC machines based on real specs, use cases, and budgets before spending thousands of dollars. So whether you're a hobbyist, running a small business, or just getting started, the right CNC depends on things like the size of the projects you want to make, the materials you plan to cut, how much room you actually have, and whether you plan to grow in the future. If you want to check out the CNC Hub, you can check it out linked down below in the description. But once you have the right CNC, mistake number two is where most people get stuck. This might surprise you, but the most issues beginners have with CNCs is nothing to do with the CNC itself. They come from skipping the basics of the design software. A lot of new CNC owners jump straight into cutting without really understanding how vectors, toolpaths, and different settings work all together. That leads to things like toolpaths cutting on the wrong side of the line, parts not fitting together, engravings cutting backwards or missing parts, and projects that look fine on the screen but fail on the machine. If you don't understand what the software is telling the CNC to do, the CNC can't fix it for you. The CNC is just following the instructions. So when something goes wrong, learning how to design clean vectors and choose the right toolpaths is what actually fixes the problem. This is also why structured software training makes such a big difference. When you learn software like Vectric step by step, instead of piecing things together from random videos, everything starts to click a lot faster. And once you understand the software, mistake number three is where beginners usually start breaking bits. Using the wrong feed and speeds is one of the fastest ways to get bad results on your CNC. And the mistake most beginners make is either trusting the default settings or being afraid to change them. So they cut way too slow, burn the wood, snap bits, and blame the machine when the real issue is how fast the cutter is moving and spinning. I see a lot of people grab random numbers off of Facebook groups or YouTube videos without understanding why those numbers work. But the feed and speeds depend on things like the material you're cutting, the type of bit you're using, how deep you're cutting, and how rigid your machine is. And the good news is you don't have to guess all these numbers. The manufacturer of the bits usually include recommended settings to start with, and there are websites out there that can help you calculate the feed and speeds based on your material and tooling. And I'll link a few of those down in the description if you want to check those out. But keep in mind, there's no one perfect setting. Feed and speeds are starting point, not a rule. So once you understand how feed and speeds actually work, you stop being scared of breaking bits and you'll start getting cleaner cuts faster. And even with good feed and speeds, mistake number four can still ruin your project. Poor work holding is one of the most overlooked CNC mistakes, and it can ruin a project even if everything else is set up perfectly. You can have the right machine, clean toolpaths, and perfect feed and speeds, but if your material isn't held down properly, the CNC has no chance. And I've seen this all the time. Not enough clamps holding your project down, the screws placed directly in the path of your toolpath, relying on only tape or clamps, or assuming the material is secure when it really isn't. If the material can move even just a little, the cut will show it. And good work holding does not have to be complicated. It just needs to be intentional. Whether you're using screws, clamps, tapes, or vacuum table, the goal is always the same. Keep the material from lifting, sliding, or shifting while the CNC is cutting. So once you understand how important work holding really is, a lot of those mysterious problems will suddenly disappear. And even with solid work holding, mistake number five can still throw everything off. Zeroing the machine incorrectly is one of the fastest ways to ruin an otherwise perfect CNC project. A lot of beginners don't fully understand the difference between machine zero and material zero, or they forget to re-zero when something changes. That will lead to things like cuts starting in the wrong place, parts cutting too deep or not deep enough, toolpaths running off of the material, or projects that look right on the screen but not on the machine. The CNC will always cut exactly where you tell it to, even if that spot is wrong. Once you understand how zeroing works, a lot of CNC problems suddenly make sense. So whether you're zeroing off the spoil board, the top of the material, or a corner, consistency is what matters most. Zeroing is one of those things that feels confusing at first, but becomes second nature once you really understand it. And that perfectly leads us into mistake number 6. Not surfacing the spoil board is a mistake a lot of new CNC owners don't even realize they're making. From the factory, most CNC tables are not perfectly flat, and over time they get even less flat. That will lead to things like cuts that don't go all the way through, uneven V-carving, inconsistent pocket depths, or projects that only cut clean on one side of the table. Your CNC can only be accurate as the surface it's cutting on. Surfacing the spoil board gives you a known flat reference surface, and that solves a lot of problems all at once. This is usually done by running a large surfacing or pocketing toolpath across the entire spoil board to make it perfectly flat relative to the machine. Once you surface your spoil board, a lot of depth-related issues will just disappear. And even with perfect zeroing and a flat spoil board, mistake number 7 can still cause problems. Ignoring the toolpath preview is one of the easiest ways to ruin a CNC project, and it's one of the easiest mistakes to avoid. Most CNC users actually do preview the toolpaths, but the mistake is they don't look closely enough. They hit preview, watch it play at full speed, see the toolpath cut out, and they just assume everything is fine. But the problems usually are hiding in the details. Here's what I see all of the time. The preview animation is too fast to catch a bad plunge. They don't zoom in tight on those corners and small text or detail areas. They don't check the final results closely, or toolpaths are in the wrong order, or they're just cutting on the wrong side of the line, missing tabs, pocketing instead of profiling. It's that little stuff that becomes big scrapwood really fast. So here's the habit you should have when previewing your toolpaths. You want to slow down the preview speed, zoom in on any risky areas that's cutting deep, and check the toolpath order every single time. And even when your toolpaths are perfect, mistake number 8 is what frustrates most beginners. One of the biggest mindset mistakes new CNC owners make is expecting perfect results right away. CNC machines are precise, but learning how to use them still takes time. Everyone makes firewood at the beginning, everyone breaks bits, everyone has projects that don't turn out the way they expected. Trust me, I've done it a lot. These are not failures, they are part of the learning process. Every single mistake will teach you something new, how the software works, how the machine reacts, and how to set up things better the next time. The CNC users who get good the fastest are the ones that test, experiment, and treat early projects as practice, not finished products. So this is something I tell my students all the time, because without all that practice, you're not going to be confident with the machine. And when you're not confident, a lot of times you're going to give up. So I highly recommend you practice as much as you can, and don't expect the best results for the beginning projects. So once you accept that learning curve, mistake number 9 becomes a lot easier to avoid. Not measuring your material thickness is a super common CNC mistake, especially for beginners. A lot of people assume their material is exactly the size it says on the label, and that's almost never true. That's how you'll end up with cuts that don't go all the way through, parts that don't fit together, tabs that break away too early, or pockets that are just too shallow or too deep. And your CNC only knows the numbers you give it. So taking 10 seconds to measure your material with a caliper or even a good tape measure will save you a lot of frustration. This is especially important with plywood, MDF, or anything layered or pre-finished. So once you start measuring your material properly, mistake number 10 is usually what slows down beginners long term. YouTube is an amazing resource for learning CNC, but it's also one of the reasons beginners feel overwhelmed. Most people jump from video to video learning random tips without understanding exactly how everything fits together. Even this video you're watching right now, you probably just clicked on trying to learn some tips and you had no idea where this video was going to take you. One video will talk about feed and speeds, another one will talk about work holding, another one will talk about zeroing, but there is no clear path. And the problem really isn't the information itself, it's the lack of structure. When you learn CNC in a step-by-step way, things stop feeling random. You understand why you're doing something, not just copying what you're seeing. That's why having a clear learning path makes such a big difference, especially when you're new. Which that brings me to a quick bonus tip before we wrap this up, and that is don't try to figure out CNC completely on your own. Most CNC frustration doesn't come from the machine, it comes from not having that clear guidance, a proven process, or knowing exactly what to focus on next. Every mistake we talked about in this video, from choosing the right CNC to software to feeds and speeds, becomes way easier to avoid when you have the right resources. If you already own a CNC and you want a clear step-by-step path, that's exactly why I built Learn Your CNC Academy. It's designed to help you learn CNC the right way with a structured training, real-world projects, and guidance that actually makes things click instead of feeling overwhelming. And if you haven't bought a CNC yet, or you're thinking about upgrading, the CNC Hub helps you research and compare CNC machines for free so you can make smarter decisions before spending thousands of dollars. I put links to both Learn Your CNC Academy and the CNC Hub in the video description, and you'll also see QR codes on the screen that you can scan to check them out right now. And to wrap this up, CNC is an incredible tool, and once you get past the early learning curve, it becomes a lot more fun and a lot less frustrating. If this video helped you, hit the like button and subscribe for more CNC tips, and I'll see you in the next one.